week's news roundup, Japan is set to import US-made Japanese vehicles. This week marks the troubled Hokkaido Shinkansen's 10th anniversary. Japanese scientists figure out how to use sweat to power your wearables, and more. Welcome to the TokyoBill Weekly Update. Iran is willing to allow Japanese vessels to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, according to Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, speaking to reporters on Friday. Japan relies on the strait for about 90% of its oil, which has been affected by the ongoing conflict involving Iran. During her meetings at the White House last week, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi was urged by U.S. President Donald Trump to increase support for reopening the strait. But Japan's military actions are limited by its constitution. Araghchi, former ambassador to Japan, explained the friendly ties between Iran and Japan and expressed hope for Japan's role in ending the current conflict. He stated that Iran seeks an end to the war and assurances against future attacks. Toyota is reverse importing 3 American-made models, the Camry, Highlander, and Tundra, into the Japanese market, with the Camry and Highlander being converted from left-hand to right-hand drive for local sales. The Camry returns after a 2-year absence, positioning itself between budget sedans and premium models. The Highlander makes its comeback after nearly 20 years. The Tundra, despite its large size, may be sold in left-hand drive only. Honda and Nissan are following suit, bringing the Acura Integra Type S, Honda Passport, and Nissan Murano to Japan from U.S. factories. A new Japan-U.S. framework agreement eliminates the need for separate safety certification, streamlining imports and improving bilateral trade relations in the automotive sector. More than 30 years after its debut, the Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon franchise remains a global phenomenon. A new permanent theater, Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, Shining Theater Shinagawa, Tokyo, is set to open at Shinagawa Prince Hotel in April, staging year-round performances featuring all 10 Sailor Guardians in a completely original story, double the 5 previously seen. Produced by Nelke Planning, the venue will also offer cast meet and greets and themed drinks, with overseas bookings welcomed. Shinagawa was strategically chosen for its transport links to Sailor Moon landmarks like Azabu Juban and the Harajuku store. With the anime broadcast in over 40 countries and overseas fans comprising around 10% of Japanese audiences, the franchise's universal themes of love and justice continue resonating across generations worldwide. A nondescript public telephone booth in Tokyo's Jimbocho district has become an unlikely pilgrimage site for fans of Chainsaw Man, the movie, Reze Arc. The 2025 Studio Mappa film, adapted from Tatsuki Fujimoto's manga, has grossed over 10 billion yen since its September release. In a memorable scene, protagonist Denji meets bomb hybrid Reze inside a phone booth, offering her a single gerbera flower. Fans identified the Jimbocho booth as the likely real-world model based on its surrounding streetscape, and began leaving flowers in tribute. Visitors now regularly line up to photograph the spot, drawing both domestic and international tourists. Telecommunications company NTT East has since increased cleaning and posted notices asking visitors to refrain from leaving flowers or personal belongings at the site. Researchers from the University of Tokyo and Hokkaido University made a remarkable discovery while operating a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, in a Northwest Pacific trench at 6,200 meters depth. Jet black eggs providing the first concrete evidence that deep-sea flatworms can survive at such extreme depths. Marine researcher Yasunori Kano retrieved 4 intact eggs, each leathery cocoon roughly 3 millimeters wide and containing 3 to 7 developing flatworms. Most other eggs found were broken or damaged. DNA analysis revealed the flatworms belong to the suborder Maricola in the order Tricladidae, setting a world record depth for free-living flatworms. Strikingly, the deep-sea specimens appeared nearly identical to shallow-water flatworms, showing no major developmental differences despite the crushing pressure and darkness of their extreme environment. The findings were published in the journal Biology Letters. A new jellyfish species has been discovered off Kumejima Island in Okinawa Prefecture by underwater photographer Ryo Menimizu, who spotted it by chance while shooting night ocean scenes in 2022. Named Manokia bandiera, the jellyfish has an elongated bell measuring 3 centimeters across, dotted with reddish-brown grains, and 4 tentacles, 2 of which extend nearly 2 meters. These long tentacles are lined with bumps resembling copepods, which may attract and lure fish for the jellyfish to prey upon. Researchers from the Kuroshio Biological Research Institute confirmed through morphological and genetic studies that it belongs to a new species closely related to the highly venomous box jellyfish. Scientists believe it evolved this unique hunting strategy to catch food reliably in prey-scarce environments. People with disabilities in Japan continue to face discriminatory refusals from accommodation providers. In 2023, a disability welfare center was turned away by a Tochigi resort before even discussing arrangements, while in 2024, 4 deaf women were refused by an inn citing emergency communication concerns. Though Japan's revised Hotel Business Act prohibits unjust refusals, a provision allowing rejection of unreasonable demands, introduced to address customer harassment, has created ambiguity that some businesses exploit. Disability advocacy groups warn that legitimate accessibility requests risk being mislabeled as harassment. Despite legal frameworks requiring businesses to provide reasonable accommodation, advocates say inadequate staff training and deep-rooted discriminatory attitudes remain the fundamental barrier to equal access for disabled individuals. Let's take a short pause. In case you're wondering, I started the TokyoBill to write about the local craft beer scene, and then included news articles on Japan that I personally found interesting. Not just the big stories carried by the mainstream media. If you like what you're hearing but want further information, please visit theTokyoBill.com for links to the original articles. Thanks, and now back to this week's news. A strike by 7 assistant language teachers in Kyoto Prefecture has thrown a spotlight on a deep pay disparity in Japan's foreign language education system. Dispatch ALTs, hired through private companies, earn roughly 2.58 million yen annually, while those on the government-sponsored JET program earn between 4 and 4.32 million yen for identical work. The gap exceeds 1 million yen per year nationwide. Originally introduced during the pandemic to fill staffing gaps, the dispatch system persists due to its flexibility. After an 18-day strike, the 7 teachers secured a 16% pay raise, though earnings remained far below JET levels. Academics describe dispatch ALTs as government-created working poor, calling for longer contracts and fairer compensation structures. East Japan Railway, or JR East, has begun operating Japan's first dedicated freight Shinkansen, running between Morioka in Iwate Prefecture and Tokyo. Converted from an E3 series passenger train previously used on the Yamagata Shinkansen line, the 7-car train runs on weekdays, carrying up to 1,000 containers per trip with a maximum load of 17.4 tons. On its inaugural Monday run, the train departed Morioka shortly after noon and arrived in Tokyo 3 hours and 15 minutes later, carrying around 800 containers, including Iwate scallops and precision equipment. JR East introduced the dedicated freight service to meet rising demand driven by truck driver shortages and carbon emission reduction goals, building on its existing passenger cargo Hakobun brand service. The Hokkaido Shinkansen celebrated its 10th anniversary this week, but the milestone offers little cause for celebration. Since launching in March 2016 between Shin Hakodate Hokuto and Shin Aomori stations, the line has seen passenger numbers at its northern terminus drop by roughly 2/3, with many travelers opting to fly rather than take the 4-hour train journey to Tokyo. The line runs an annual deficit exceeding $60 million. Compounding the struggle, the long-anticipated extension to Sapporo has been pushed back from 2030 to fiscal 2038, with projected costs ballooning by up to $7.5 billion, above the original $14 billion estimate. Tunnel construction difficulties and soaring material prices are cited as primary causes. Officials insist the line will only realize its full potential once it reaches Sapporo. A French court has sentenced Chilean national Nicolas Zepeda to life imprisonment for the 2016 murder of Narumi Kurosaki, a 21-year-old Japanese exchange student who vanished from her dormitory in Besançon, eastern France. The sentence, handed down during a retrial in Lyon, exceeded the 30-year term sought by prosecutors. Zepeda had previously received a 28-year sentence in 2022, upheld on appeal in 2023, before France's highest court ordered a retrial on procedural grounds. Kurosaki's family attended the hearing, quietly embracing through tears. Their lawyer noted the sentence brings recognition of the family's ordeal rather than comfort. Zepeda, who has maintained his innocence throughout, covered his face as the verdict was read. His defense team plans to appeal. Japanese researchers at Tokyo University of Science have developed a self-powered sensor patch that generates electricity directly from sweat. No battery required. Using a water-based enzyme ink printed onto paper in a single pass, the team created enzymatic biofuel cells that convert lactate in sweat into electrical power. The system achieved a peak power density of 165 microwatts per square centimeter, nearly double previous benchmarks, enough to support low-power sensing and Bluetooth transmission of fitness data. Unlike conventional manufacturing methods prone to inconsistency, this single-step screen printing process is designed for mass production, including a roll-to-roll demo printing 400 meters of substrate continuously. Practical wearable applications are targeted for around 2030, pending further optimization and long-term validation. A 23-year-old second lieutenant in Japan's Ground Self-Defense Force has been referred to prosecutors after unlawfully entering the Chinese embassy in Tokyo. Kodai Murata, stationed at Camp Ebino in Miyazaki Prefecture, was arrested Tuesday after climbing over a barbed wire wall, injuring his hands. A knife was found in the embassy bushes. Murata told investigators he wanted to convey his opinions to the ambassador, urging China to stop criticizing Japan, and had planned to take his own life if turned away. He had taken a day off, traveled to Tokyo by bus and Shinkansen, and purchased the knife at a retail store. The incident comes amid deteriorating Japan-China relations following Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's remarks about a potential Taiwan contingency response. Two East Asian pop giants are taking strikingly different approaches to global fandom this spring. BTS launches a world tour in April, spanning 4 continents, with Seoul actively welcoming international visitors through hotel packages and foreigner-friendly support. Arashi, meanwhile, has confined their farewell tour entirely to Japan, and controversy erupted when a foreign fan was turned away at the door in Sapporo, despite being a paying fan club member. Japan's strict anti-scalping measures, including digital tickets tied to Japanese mobile numbers, effectively exclude foreign concertgoers. Critics warn this insularity could cost J-pop its global momentum as K-pop aggressively courts international audiences. With over-tourism already a concern, Japan may feel little financial pressure to change, but the cultural cost could be significant. Japanese researchers have identified the molecular mechanism by which caffeic acid, a polyphenol produced when coffee compounds break down in the intestines, suppresses the growth of colorectal cancer cells. The team found that caffeic acid binds to a protein called RPS5, associated with poor recovery outcomes in colorectal cancer patients, blocking its function and reducing levels of cyclin D1, a protein that drives cell growth. This effectively halts the cancer cell cycle before DNA replication begins. Published in scientific reports, the findings build on epidemiological data linking coffee consumption to reduced colorectal cancer risk. Researchers caution that this is cell-based laboratory research and does not directly recommend increased coffee consumption as a prevention strategy. And that brings us to the end of this week's news roundup. Once again, your visit to the TokyoBill would be greatly appreciated. I've been, and remain, TokyoBill. Thank you for listening, and take care.